Hello, I'm Dwight, the Director of the Office of Performance Strategy and Budget, and I'm here today to give you an update on the county's 2021-2022 biennial budget. I've been working on budgets since 1987 for cities and counties, and I have to say this is a unique one, the most complicated budget I've ever had to deal with. We have three big uncertainties that we are dealing with for this budget. First of all is COVID. Back in the winter and the spring, we thought we had gotten through it, and now we're right back into it in the summer, and there's a lot of predictions it'll be even worse in the fall. We don't know how long it's going to be with us. We don't know when we're going to have a cure, and so we are preparing budgets with all sorts of uncertainty about the health status of our community. Secondly, there's a great deal of uncertainty about what COVID has done to our economy. We know that we are in a very serious recession. Unemployment is the highest it's been since the Great Depression back in the 1930s. And we have both short-term and long-term economic damage that has been done. Obviously, the people who have lost their jobs because restaurants are closed, when the restaurants can reopen, they can mostly come back to work. But we've seen huge damage to the tourism industry, to the aerospace industry that will take many, many years to recover from. The third uncertainty is what the federal government is going to do. They have passed several pieces of legislation this year that have supported our efforts to respond to COVID, but we don't know whether they will do more. Here in late July, we have competing proposals from the House and the Senate that are very different. One would provide much more financial relief for King County, and the other would frankly do very little for us. So until that uncertainty is resolved, we don't really know what our budget situation is going to be. COVID and the economic recession affect different parts of the county budget in different ways. I want to mention three funds or activities that have particular financial challenges. First is Metro Transit. Metro Transit depends mostly on sales tax revenue, which has plunged in this recession. They also depend a lot on fare revenue, which has gone way down because fewer people are taking the bus. They are going to have significant financial challenges in the year to come. A second area that is in difficulty is what we call our general fund, the traditional functions of county government. The general fund is also hit by the loss of sales tax revenue, and that money is what supports most of our criminal legal system, the assessment office, elections, and a few other agencies. They are going to have significant budget reductions if we don't get a new revenue source or we don't get some federal money. And then finally, we have a fund called the Mental Illness and Drug Dependency Fund that supports a lot of our activities with therapeutic courts and with behavioral health or mental health and drug treatment services. There are also other funds in our Department of Community and Human Services that are affected also by the recession, and we're looking at some very challenging budgets in those areas. There are other parts of the county budget, many of the agencies in the Department of Natural Resources and Parks, for example, that really aren't affected, and so their budgets are going to be pretty stable. The county is better positioned than many other governments to deal with the recession for about three reasons. So first of all, we have built up significant reserves in anticipation of a recession. And so one of the reasons that Metro is going to be able to get through with smaller service cuts than you might expect is they have very substantial reserves that will carry them for several years into the future. A second reason is that we have comprehensive financial policies that have been adopted by our executive and council that guide our decision-making in these processes. And then finally, we are less dependent on some volatile revenues, particularly sales tax revenue, than many of the other governments in Washington state. Another complexity for the upcoming budget is the county's anti-racism agenda. In addition to all the other things we're trying to do, we have to change how we spend some of our money. We have to focus more on support for communities of color and less on some of our traditional processes, particularly in the justice system. The executive and the council are committed to doing some things in a different way, which will be another overlay onto this budget. The county budget process is really just underway. We start by agencies submitting their budget proposals to my office, the Office of Performance Strategy and Budget, at the beginning of July. We review them, working with the agencies over a course of about 2 months, working with the county executive to support his decision making. The county executive will transmit his budget proposal to the county council on September 22nd. The council will then review it, make adjustments to it, and adopt a final budget just before Thanksgiving. I will be back later in the budget process to give you updates on where we are. Thanks for listening.